Hello, welcome everyone to the sixth episode of Zoho Life. My name is Premanand and I am the Business Solutions Manager for Middle East and Africa. Joining us today is a successful entrepreneur and he's been into the industry for many years, I would say. What's special about him? I think he just took a step forward and he's recently focusing more on work environment and people's time utilization. Welcome Sander Wasser, who's the founder, president, and CEO of Ensemble, all the way from Israel. Hello, Sander.
Good afternoon. Thank you, and thanks for inviting me to come speak to others around.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I could see there's a awesome background. Yeah, great.
Yes, one of the advantages of remote work, which we'll be discussing today, is change locations.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we're good to go. I'll just start with a very long question. I'm sorry about that. So the first one is going
Okay.
to be, I mean, amidst of all this COVID situation and preamble, our discussion will cover the relationship and cultural change that remote work has caused with and among workers, be they local or remote. Then how do you keep track and report accomplishments and efforts? So can you give some highlights on how to do that, or and also how to do the time management measures and performance?
Okay, let's start, I guess, with relationships, which are essential because they influence the company culture as well. And what we really have to look at is some practical actions that one could take that could positively impact the culture and the environment that one is working with. So today, we'll hopefully talk about some steps we can take to develop the mutual trust between people, which is essential.
Hmm.
Some say even more so remotely because you can't see each other, which I'll get into hopefully a bit later on. But I want to look at some positive things. What can go right by working remotely and locally, a hybrid, one or the other, and to build the right respect and confidence with all the players that are involved. Most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, though, holds true for local offices, remote offices in the traditional sense, and the work at home, work from home worker, which is a whole new world in the volume that we're dealing with now. Contextually, you had people working, but it was not at the rate that we have now. So all of this is impacting the way we are actually performing our activities and building our relationships.
Yes,
So
that's true.
one of the questions you mentioned there is how to keep track and report your accomplishments. And it's a strange place. Why do we start there when we're talking about relationships? Especially in this new world, we've got to understand what we're doing. Take my analyst back on there. Understand what's going on so that we can move forward. So if you keep track and report by reporting your accomplishments and what you're doing, it's actually a step in trust building between the organization, management, and the employee, or between employees. It's a reinforcer of what you're doing. It sets the stage for how you could set your work, because the whole notion of work and how you work and when you work is different now. And it's a self-help tool to make sure that you can function effectively and not burn out. Either one way, that be burnt out or burn yourself out. So we got to keep in mind, every place you work has a different environment. If it's a work from home, if it's a cafe, if it's your organization, my organization have different cultures, different ways of working. That's just reality. The environmental factors, the interruptions, the intentions, the expectations, all that will impact your accomplishments. So you want to be able to manage it. And keep in mind, in the workplace, there were a lot of these issues that exist in the work from home environment as well. So we don't want to lose sight of that in any way, shape, or form. But you do have additional issues when you're working from home. You have family, children, especially since many places schools have been closed, they got to deal with that. You have deliveries, as you're well aware of. On a side note, construction can be a problem. That's one reason why I had to move my location. My neighbor's doing construction and has caused some interference. But all those things come to place, and you can manage all that stuff appropriately, as hopefully we'll get into shortly. So the question really is on how does one facilitate the efficient time management and the work task accomplishments. And that is really there to determine how to realign your day, how to set your stage, and especially when you start off, it's hard. But it's hard when you're in the workplace too. You got to figure out what's going on, and to really put the pieces together to build your own workday. Okay, so keeping date and time stamped records of activities and reviewing them, finding issues, finding successes, finding interruptions, issues that you can make all these issues that you can make adjustments to make your day more fulfilling and accomplishing a lot more. So there are things there. So a bit of record keeping sometimes seems like a pain, but in this case, it actually helps facilitate your success and the success of the organization. To some extent, you're going to do that. So the question I assume you're going to ask, and a lot of the people watching is going to ask, so now I'm not only recommending that you record and compile the time for time management purposes, but also for reporting purposes back to the organization. In a way, the organization is going to require it, and you require it for other reasons. So why not have a tool that does both at the same time with little or no effort, so that you can identify the issues to make your remote work successful and the organization work properly, okay, and fulfill their obligations. So one issue that really does come up is the organization with people, or organizing your time to work with people.
Exactly. Yeah. But that is a nice lead-in. But I mean, how do you handle the human touch with technology? Both goes hand in hand simultaneously, and as you mentioned, that it has to come in with people accordingly, and what practice to follow, particularly for remote workers.
Okay. In order to deal with the people, the human touch is the focus there. You have to know something about your coworkers. You have to know when they're available. You have to know what their availability is in the future, so that you can accomplish your tasks and let them accomplish their tasks. It goes back to this mutual respect aspect of this. And it's important so that you know when to meet, when to collaborate, so everyone's tasks get accomplished effectively and efficiently. So you can plan your days better. Things come up in every environment, but you got to plan it, and you want to be able to not only meet your expectations, you want to exceed your expectations. Okay. Some organizations handle this issue by telling their employees they have to be on camera while they're working.
Yeah.
My preference, for lack of a better word, would be to have a positive indicator when someone is there, indicating that, hey, Sander is available, or he's at work and he's not available, The point being is that a camera might be intrusive. An indicator is something that I can set or is set so that I can convey the information that is there. What that does is gives a signal to people when they can contact me, when we can collaborate, either in present or future. And I don't think that should be minimized, because the main function, and listening to the intro talking about the customer relations, your relations with your coworkers, with your team, your organization, and the people within the organization is as essential, because they're happy, they'll be successful with their customers as well.
Yeah.
So if you allow me just a quick story, if John wanted to speak to Sally in the workplace, he would stand up, look around. Is Sally there? Is Sally available to talk or not? That's great. In the remote work environment, that's just not possible. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a scenario, and I didn't have to make this one up, which is nice, where John called Sally to do some collaborative work during his work from home hours. Sally happened to be out with her kids on the street. So she was taken aback by getting this work call. He was taken aback because, hey, she's not working when he's working. He's not working regular work hours. And he had no idea. He had to rearrange his day. His deadlines might have slipped and stuff like that. So there was a negative impact to that relationship. By simply communicating, by a simple mode of communicating, not only is that she was not available, but when she would be available, would have a whole different train to that conversation and that interaction. And it would have been a lot more positive for all involved. Sally wouldn't have felt intruded upon. John would have been able to say, oh, she's not in this morning. I'll contact her in the afternoon. I'll do the other stuff earlier. I'll just rearrange my day without much of a hassle. And this way, you could sustain the relationship. And I think that's one of the themes of this talk, is to manage and sustain relationships, and not get management to intervene to make a relationship which might be false.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But do you think, speaking about this example, do you think people are suddenly expected to work long hours these days, but maybe because of this remote work, maybe diminishing the work-life balance? What do you think so?
The assumption in that, and in a lot of the stuff that is being published, is unfortunately negative, and I don't blame you. That would be my assumption, the first assumption to begin with. But working from home has a lot of positive aspects to it, and those shouldn't be diminished. More time with family, with hobbies, because you're able to rearrange your day a bit more flexibly. You can deal with all these things. The fact that you're spending less time sitting in traffic is a positive thing. You're not dealing with office politics as much. You don't have the right noises that you have from the office. You don't have parking and gas expenses, which do add up. So other time wasters and unproductive activities go away. So that's a positive side from it. The question is, do people put in more time? They might. But in the traditional workplace, many people worked more hours than they were expected to. And there, unfortunately, were some people who worked less. So you got to look at both sides. So if you go back to the first point I was making about time management, is you're managing your time, you're able to report your time, you're able to see that if I'm putting too much time or more than expected from me, and I'm not getting the balance from it, management can see, hey, you put in an extra 20 hours this week, what's going on? It's not healthy. Or there was a project we needed, so let's, on the humane side, compensate somehow, time-wise or something. Send them, I hate to use the tech, the cold pizza and the warm Coke, but send them a gratuity or something because they are making the extra effort. in the office, out of the office, but you got to watch it. All of this, again, is mutual respect and building those relationships, which are important. That being said,
Right.
there is a place for face-to-face, person-to-person meetings, reading body language. It's harder on this type of forum to read body language. And plus, you can't see everybody at the same time. So you've got to deal with that, and putting yourself away sometime face to face does get rid of some of the other distractions in life. You're in a meeting room, you're meeting, you're not going to be distracted. You just have to let people know so not to call you. So even if you're doing it from home, you want to indicate, I'm busy, do not interrupt me. Unless there's a major catastrophe. I'm not talking about work catastrophe, I'm talking about natural catastrophe or something worse than that. So you've got to deal with all this. So we also have to look at how the pendulum is going to swing back and forth from really working in a traditional workplace to working from home. And as we come out of this COVID, whatever we want to call it, work environment or not work environment, unfortunately for some, we want to be able to take our experiences and correct our work-life balances, both for the organization and for the individual.
Right. But keeping in mind of all these COVID work experience, can you, and if so, how to seamlessly transition back, which we call it as the old workspace? Can you explain or can you just shed some light on that?
Are we going to go back to the old workplace? Is one question.
Yeah.
Everyone's hypothesizing now. We might be, we might not be. Some people like the work from home environment for some of the reasons I've articulated already, at least for part of the work week. I'm not going to repeat all those issues again. Some organizations have stated that they will encourage work from home for some of the work week where the work lends itself to, which is something they wouldn't have considered before. Part of it is lack of trust. So this unfortunate situation is teaching us how to trust each other. And that is essential in building the relationship, which is a real positive. I've even heard there's one organization in Europe that has already declared that 70% of their workforce will continue working from home no matter what. And that is a big change to, and this is a multinational organization that has thousands of workers. What does that mean? What does it mean for office space, but what does it mean for the people and their relationships, which are going to be different? So keeping that in mind, you got to look at a couple of things. Some that preceded COVID and some because of COVID. Before COVID, there is already a trend for people working from home. There are more people trying to do freelance work, contract work, more organizations willing to undertake that type of worker. Sometimes they would come in, but often they would work from home. The second one is actually due to COVID. Unfortunately, too many people have lost their jobs. They're sitting around, and many of them have taken on other types of work. They've created opportunities, built their own businesses, all of it remotely, which is nice. So between the two, how are you going to sustain all this remote workforce and keep the team and family environment together? That's really what we're going to have to come back to. So the question really is how to seamlessly return to a quasi-normal workplace where you're going to have more people congregating together, either full-time, part-time, infrequently, but how to do that. Um,
Mhm.
and if that's your question, the answer is really quite easy.
Mhm.
By instituting the ideas we started off with, everything flows nicely
Right.
because you're able to build the team and build the individual with respect. Um, they have ideas of what's going on. They're sharing information so that they could work. And if the team is, again, remotely local or hybrid, it becomes irrelevant because the tools
Mhm.
that you provide them to do it, and I'm not talking about paper and pencil because that's not going to work in any environment anymore. Um, it will help develop um, and manage the sustainability of a close-knit environment and team. And that's really what you're looking for. Post.
Mhm.
Build on the, I won't say unfortunate reasons, but the fortunate circumstance of what we were able to learn from this and what we've actually gained from this.
Mhm. Yeah, but what you're talking about is for the future, right? And what happens to the present? Because this pandemic has affected or impacted a lot of people, and we have really not chosen to work from home. A lot of them are feel coped up for too far long, right? So it has started to affect them physically and also mentally because they don't have a proper environment, they don't have a proper, because they have to adapt to everything in a very new culture. So how can you address this concern at a company or an org level? How do you think you can do that? I think there is some technical issues with Sander. Let's see if we can pull him in. And I think it
So
was a
okay, now
great
I think I
conversation
got you
that,
back.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm back. I lost you for a while. Sorry about that.
Yes, yes, Sander.
Um,
No worries. Yeah.
yeah, so
So I think we were talking
your
about
question
the
was
old workspace. So I asked, like, yeah, what is the future? I mean, what we're talking about is the future, but what about the present? Because it has impacted a lot of people, and they are mentally and physically
yeah,
affected about the environment, and also how to address this
yes.
from a company or an org level perspective.
Uh, Great question because some organizations are doing fabulous things and
Hmm.
series of online get-togethers to simulate coffee room discussions. Either people are doing it themselves or collectively. What was lost in COVID is going for coffee, a little water cooler discussion where you talk about all sorts of things, intergroup, um, not formally, and you gain a lot out of it.
Hmm.
So this by these organizations that are more or less, I won't say suggesting, imposing it, are actually doing themselves a great favor because it's building cohesiveness with the team and allowing for those learning experiences, which is great. Some organizations have organized exercise sessions. You know, a lot of us have been staying home,
Hmm.
moving around a lot less, eating a lot more. Exercise sessions are good. So you can do that in your comfortable attire. And some
Hmm.
organizations are having management check, quote unquote, check in, not check in on work, which they do anyhow, but check in on the person. And that connection, that's relationship, is again is a way to sustain and manage the team. Um,
Hmm.
and hopefully, and I suspect it has a major place in the old HR, which used to be human resources, has now transformed into human relations. And that is not
Exactly.
just a change of what the R stands for. That's a substantial
Yep.
change in orientation and will allow us to deal with the current situation and move forward.
Right. And even I mean, talking about this human relationship and human resources, one of our directors from Zoho was talking or explaining about how we can call that as, or pleasantly call this as a human relations than human resources. So sounds good, by
Uh,
the way.
I,
Uh,
I really hope it sticks because Um, as a person, I am, but I'm really not a resource. I want to have a relationship with you. I don't want, and I want you to exploit all positive aspects of it. I don't want to be exploited. Resources have a tendency to be exploited. Relationships,
Right.
actually aren't.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's true. Sounds good. But do you think these
Maybe I
are just touchy feel issues?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for that. But
No, sorry?
yeah, but do you think these are touchy feel issues? But and there are any benefits for the organizations to invest in such operational methodologies for remote, and maybe even for the local workers, which they are right now?
Touchy-feely issues always had its place.
Right.
In the workplace, all the workplace, they're there. There's this intangible which has more meaning than tangible in many cases. Now, even more so with the lack of physical human contact, we need it even more. It's required, especially with those who have people personalities. I don't want to group anyone in particular, but I suspect people doing customer support, customer service, sales, to a great extent, like the human interaction. So online
The
has its
front end
place, but it
soldiers.
doesn't do it. Yeah. And I just pick on them. There are many, many more.
Right.
There are fewer and fewer who don't have to have some personality traits that are people traits. You just can't get away with it anywhere, as far as I know.
Right.
But what we have to look at is it's not only a management to employee issue. It is the relationship also has to invest in the employee to employee relationship. It does that does many things. One, it frees up the manager from trivial activities. There's a story I was talking to a gentleman and said every time one of his employees wanted to know if the other employee is going to be around, they would interrupt his workday to find out. I said, well, it's not
That's
a waste of your time and expensive time. Wouldn't it make more sense? Allow them the tool or the ability to know, and therefore they can work out that problem, and you can get on to the real the more activities at your skill level, at what you have to deal with. And it was just eye-opening, that concept to him. But it is there, and I think that's a point that when we talk about sustainability and manageability, it's not only trust, it's a matter of a certain amount of, for lack of a better word, freedom that we have to give the workforce.
True. Yeah. Thank you so much. And not to keep you so long, but what do you think, or where do you think we go from here? We are among the situation, and or what do you suggest, or what do you think?
Well, that's actually a very big question, and I'm not a prophet. I don't have a crystal ball, but there are indications out there. Companies are more ready to accept work for home. And when this whole thing started, one of the themes was, well, why didn't we do it before? And it's because we didn't trust the workers. Well, why not? If you don't trust them, why do you even have them in your workplace? If you think about it that way. But if they allow it to for at least part of the work week, it helps. The question really does arise is how is each person going to deal with the multifaceted matrix relationships that they fit into, and to manage and sustain those relationships. That's going to be a tough one. So in the short term, may I strongly suggest the first steps we discussed, and it could be taken right now, or should have been taken. Know when and where your work relationships are, when they're available and when they will be available. Okay, that will help on minimally telephone messages or messages to just to arrange a Zoom session for a meeting. We'll reduce all that stuff. Get a good understanding of your own time and your own efforts so you can manage that a lot better. You meet your expectations and you meet your co-workers' expectations. So that relationship builder will go a far way. In essence, treat each individual that you're working with the same respect you want to be treated with. And there are many beautiful organizations that have done it for years, some less so. Okay? Now's the opportunity to do that, and it's going to be, I suspect, people-driven. The workforce is going to drive it. In the mid to long term, I suspect that there'll be more multifaceted, easy-to-use technologies to facilitate the management and sustainability of remote workers and teams and their relationships. You know what? Let me change that a little bit. I'm going to take that back. The future will bring such technologies to facilitate the management and sustainability of relationships and better relationship connections. Some of which I hope I'll be invited back sometime in the future. If this, hopefully, people are getting a lot out of this. I will be able to talk because I love engaging in this stuff and honestly talking about what we're doing now at Ensemble. But there are many things out there, or will be out there, to help facilitate the sustainability and management of relationships.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining, Sander, and thank you for giving a lot of insights about one-to-one relationship and all the people management and among workers and one-to-one and one-to-many relationship. Thank you so much for giving all these and for your time as well.
Okay, and I want to say thank you for allowing me to share some of my thoughts with you and whoever's listening in, for everyone's participation, to you specifically and your team for setting this thing up, and for discussion. So I thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. And viewers who are over here, please feel free to leave any comments. We'll make sure that it reaches Sander at right time, and we'll get you the reply as well. Thank you so much for joining, and see you in the next episode of Zoho Live. For any questions, we are gonna put you up a banner where we have the contact number and the email address. You can reach us out anytime. And thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too, Sander. Bye-bye.